Welcome to the deep dive. We take the source material you bring us, and together we unpack the most important insights. Today we're diving into a single really compelling source. It's a narrative about the journey of a young woman named Alina and the unexpected power English reading had in her life.
Yeah, and this isn't your typical textbook on grammar rules, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's much more a story of transformation. It follows Alina from someone who, really struggled with reading to becoming a writer and even an advocate for reading among language learners.
Exactly. So our mission here is to explore how reading in English can be so much more than just like building a skill.
Right.
How it can fundamentally change your confidence, your voice, and maybe even the whole direction of your life. Get ready to see how one person's quiet journey can offer some pretty big aha moments for anyone learning a language.
Let's dig in. Let's see why her experience resonates so powerfully.
Okay, so the story starts by introducing Alina. She's 22, and she has this big dream. She wants to be a travel writer.
A fantastic dream, yeah. But the source tells us she had a pretty significant hurdle. She really actively disliked reading, especially in English. For her, it felt boring, kind of overwhelming. The narrative actually describes it as a wall she could never climb.
Which is so relatable, isn't it? Even especially today, preferring videos or audio over, wrestling with text.
Definitely.
Her parents, interestingly, they were teachers, loved books, saw them as doors. But Alina, no, she looked at English books and just saw puzzles. Complicated puzzles.
Yeah, and this aversion, it had real consequences for that travel writing dream, didn't it?
Oh, yeah.
The job applications she sent out after university, they came back. Well, if they came back at all.
Right.
With that familiar feedback, needing better English writing skills. You can just feel her frustration in the text, her question of, why does everyone expect perfect English?
Yeah. But then this moment happens. The source calls it really interesting. She sees her absolute dream job posted, famous travel magazine, and the application. It's different. Read a short English story and send your thoughts.
Wow. That sounds simple. But the source emphasizes it felt like a mountain to her.
Even though it was just one page.
Right. Just one page. A simple story, apparently, about a boy, the Arctic, and a polar bear.
But what happened next was, totally unexpected. Even though she read it super slowly, stopping, rereading, took her 20 minutes for one page.
20 minutes?
Yeah. But she actually enjoyed it. Something about the simple, powerful words, the short sentences, they stuck with her.
That feeling, that unexpected enjoyment. That was the spark, wasn't it?
Exactly.
It made her think, maybe reading isn't actually boring. Maybe I just never gave it a real chance.
She didn't apply for the job that night, interestingly.
Oh.
No. Instead, she made a different decision, a quieter one. She decided to start reading English just for herself.
That's a big shift.
Huge. She found free short stories online. The source mentions one called The Secret Library. And she started that slow, kind of honest process, underlining words she didn't know. Not understanding everything, but feeling this sense of accomplishment, A quiet pride with each story she managed to finish.
That's great, taking ownership.
Yeah, and this small, consistent step, taking control of her own learning. It changed everything. The story highlights how reading helped her understand more words, sure, but also improved her writing, sparked new ideas, and maybe most importantly, made her actually fall in love with English.
And the source offers a really powerful takeaway right there at the beginning. Reading in English isn't just about learning words. It's about learning the world. What do you think that means, really, in the context of her journey so far?
Well, I think it's about how stories just connect you, don't they, to
Yeah.
experiences, ideas, places way beyond your immediate surroundings. It's not just vocabulary lists.
Right.
It's exposure to different cultures, different perspectives, different ways of thinking. Like that Arctic story, it immediately transported her, right? Just for 20 minutes, it opened a window she didn't even know was there.
Yeah, exactly. More than just language. Okay, so building on that initial spark, the source describes Alina establishing this simple routine, reading one short story daily, creating a notebook, consciously collecting words and sentences she liked. The source used this lovely image, saying she was collecting English sentences like treasures.
Oh, I love that phrasing. It really shifts the focus, doesn't it, from obligation to something precious, something personal.
Totally.
So she's doing this consistently for about a month. And then the turning point, the source says, came on this rainy afternoon. She ducks into a dusty secondhand bookstore.
Just getting out of the rain,
Yeah.
right? Not looking for anything specific.
Exactly.
And there's this nice idea the kind owner suggests that sometimes, books choose you.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what happened. Tucked away on a bottom shelf, she finds Wanderer's Journal, Tales from the Road by Julia Park. The cover, the simple but poetic writing about travels across 20 countries. It just spoke to her own dream.
Wow. She bought it, took it home, and just devoured it. The source says reading that first chapter about a village in Peru felt completely different from anything before.
How so?
She didn't just read the words, she felt like she was actually living in that story. The source calls it dreaming with eyes wide open.
That feeling of immersion, that's absolutely key, isn't it?
Definitely.
She read the entire book, not just once, but twice.
Yeah.
In 1 week.
Twice. Wow.
And then, on the very last page, she finds this author's note that basically becomes her motto. To all dreamers, read to see, read to feel, read to become. She put that on her mirror.
Read to become, that's really powerful. And the source highlights how reading became her mirror, a reflection of who she wanted to be.
Exactly.
This wasn't just about English anymore, was it?
Not at all. It
Yeah.
built her confidence, it gave her a voice, and it improved her fluency and writing flow almost.
Well, the source says without effort.
Because she was seeing how these skilled writers did it, right? How they crafted those compelling stories.
Right.
Exactly. She was absorbing structure, rhythm, tone. Maybe subconsciously at first, And this newfound confidence and skill, it led to something really wonderful. She started writing her own travel stories.
On a blog.
Yeah, she put them on a blog called Steps and Stories.
And even though her grammar wasn't perfect, the source says her ideas were honest. People responded. Comments started coming in.
Like what?
Things like, your words made me smile, or I felt like I was there.
Oh, that validation from readers?
Yeah.
That must have meant the world to her.
Totally. And she knew deep down it was because she'd started reading. Reading showed her how others told stories, taught her the music of the language, as the source puts it. It helped her believe she had something worth saying, too.
Yeah. It gave her permission, in a way.
And then the story delivers this stunning, full circle moment. An email arrives.
But from who?
It's from the same travel magazine, the one that once required reading that story just to apply.
No way.
Yes. They had found her blog, and they invited her to write a guest piece.
Wow. Just wow. The source captures that feeling perfectly, doesn't it? Staring at the screen, unable to move, feeling unreal. This whole section, it just beautifully illustrates how one significant book, almost found by chance, can catalyze such profound change. It gave her a life she never imagined possible, showing reading isn't just language acquisition. It's fuel for personal growth, creative growth.
Absolutely, a total game changer. So her article that's published, she's describing a trip, and she wrote it with these rich sensory details, the source notes, not only what she saw, but also what she felt.
Oh, that's key, the feeling. Yeah.
And she wrote it in English, reflecting on how reading had transformed the difficulty from feeling like carrying a heavy backpack to flying.
That's such a great metaphor for fluency, isn't it? That shift from burden to something effortless, almost joyful.
Totally. And this journey, it wasn't just internal anymore. An older woman apparently noticed her writing in the park one day and commented on the power of her words. And it made Alina realize something important. Her words didn't come only from her, they also came through her, from all the writers she had read.
We become the stories we read. The source says this realization really struck her. How do you think reading helps you become the stories you read?
Well, it's like the language itself, right? The rhythm, the way of seeing the world that you encounter in books. It kind of seeps into you.
Yeah, I think so. It shapes how you think, how you express yourself, maybe even the kind of observations you make.
Exactly. Reading gave Alina rhythm, emotion, clarity, and confidence. English became a bridge for her, connecting her inner world to the outer one and connecting her to other people.
And she consciously deepened this connection. She reread Wanderer's Journal.
The book that started it all.
Yeah, but this time she wrote notes in the margins. She saw it as having a conversation with the author. She realized reading itself is this quiet, powerful exchange.
I love that idea, a conversation across time and space.
Mm-hmm. And her blog continued to grow, and significantly, other English learners started reaching out.
Right, sharing their own struggles.
Exactly. They shared their struggles, found hope in her story, and started asking for advice.
Which led her to start something new, right? The online reading circle.
Yeah, an online reading circle with people from different countries. And they didn't focus on grammar tests or perfection. They just read stories together and discussed them. The focus was on growth, connection.
Community.
Exactly. And the reactions from participants were apparently incredibly moving. The source mentions a man from Turkey who had this realization that English reading was for life, not just for a test. Or a teenager from Brazil who felt like reading was actually traveling.
Wow. And when people asked her, how she became so good at English, her answer, the source presents it as a key takeaway for any learner. What was it again?
It was simple but profound. I didn't chase perfection. I just started reading, and I never stopped. Reading made me love English, and love made me learn.
Why do you think that distinction, chasing perfection versus pursuing love or passion, is so crucial? Well, perfection is terrifying, isn't it? It's paralyzing. It focuses on the fear of making mistakes.
Right.
But love, or passion, that's intrinsically motivating. It fuels consistent effort because you actually want to do it, not because you feel you have to. Alina's journey just shows that when you connect with the material emotionally, the learning becomes, organic, sustainable.
Beautifully put. And building on this passion, this desire to connect, Alina did something really cool. She transformed an empty room in her local community center
into the library of dreams.
Yeah. And it wasn't a classroom. The source is clear on that. It was a space not for formal learning, but for wonder. Just a quiet place for people to connect with words, stories, and maybe themselves.
And the quote on the wall.
Every reader opens a door to a new world. Sums up perfectly.
And people came.
Oh, yeah. People from all different backgrounds. Teenagers, retired women, mothers. Alina wasn't standing at the front lecturing about grammar. She just offered the space, the books, and kind of observed their quiet discoveries.
The source mentions an example, right? Amir.
Yes, Amir. A shy 12-year-old who hated worksheets. But in this space, he found a mystery story. And suddenly, Reading was fun. Imagine that.
That's amazing. And the readers were all filled up with these heartfelt messages about the emotional impact reading had on them.
Yeah, crying, laughing, feeling seen, feeling young again.
This whole phase just beautifully demonstrates how reading empowered Alina not just internally, but to actually create community and help others. It really shows that reading doesn't just improve your language, it cultivates empathy. Like the source says, when you read, you live another life.
So true.
And her journey kept unfolding, didn't it, in these wonderful, unexpected ways. She visits another small bookstore, turns the page, and discovers another book that resonates deeply. The Silent Garden.
Yeah, this one was about a girl who could hear everything but couldn't speak. And the source really highlights how it connected with Alina's own past struggles, finding her voice in English. It showed her that silence could be its own kind of language, and it reinforced her understanding that English wasn't just about communicating perfectly, but about connection, real human connection.
And she brought that book to her library of dreams.
She did, and it became the most borrowed book. It touched others, like a quiet boy named Luca, who apparently felt the book was about me. That ability of a story to make you feel seen, it's just incredibly powerful, isn't it?
It really is. It validates your own experiences, your feelings, when you see them reflected like that, even in fiction.
Absolutely. And inspired by all of this, by these connections, Alina started writing her own book, The Listening Path.
The source describes it as this gentle guide for learners focusing on listening, reading, observing, caring, kind of the opposite of a grammar drill book.
Right. She wrote it in clear human English, sharing the lessons from her own journey.
And the feedback from her reading circle, the first readers.
Profound. Things like, I felt seen, or this is the first English book I actually finished, and even now I want to write too. Just shows the ripple effect, right?
Totally. Her journey, her book, inspiring others to start theirs. Small groups and teachers in other countries even started using it.
And this growing influence led to this amazing invitation, speaking at an international English learning organization conference.
Wow. And the source makes a point about why they invited her, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's key. They didn't want a perfect English speaker. They wanted someone who understands the journey.
That's a huge difference. Authenticity over perceived perfection.
Exactly. So at the conference, despite being nervous, Alina shared her personal story, the fear, the wrong beliefs she used to hold about English, and her core message that English reading is for anyone who wants to feel something new, to be alone yet not lonely.
I love that. Alone yet not lonely. And she encouraged the audience to start small, right? Echoing her own first steps.
Yeah, one page, one paragraph, one feeling. Simple, actionable. She shared anecdotes from her reading room, and her main point was clear.
Yeah.
Reading gave her a voice, and that voice is what carried her to that very stage.
And the audience response.
Powerful. Applause, gratitude, inspiration, people deciding right there to start reading or start journaling. And in that moment, she had this profound realization. She wasn't chasing fame. She was chasing connection.
And her story resonated because it was about progress, not perfection.
Exactly. The source captures the lesson she learned that night so well. Stories don't belong to the person who writes them. They belong to everyone who reads them and finds a piece of themselves inside.
Wow. And that realization sparked another idea, didn't it? The library without walls.
Yeah. Receiving letters and messages from learners all over the world made her see that her impact couldn't be limited by a physical room.
So she created digital resources.
Digital books with audio and notes, making them accessible globally. The source mentions one called the Window Reader, which apparently became like a passport for a boy who couldn't travel physically.
That's incredible. The reach. Thousands of downloads used in refugee camps,
shared with messages like, English reading is not a skill, it's a light. Just amazing.
And through all this global reach, she stayed grounded.
Yeah, the source emphasizes that. She continued her local activities, but her words traveled far. She realized that when you read, you grow quietly, but the impact echoes loudly. And that helping others read gives them not just a skill, but courage, a way to tell their story.
Quiet growth, loud echoes. I like that.
Okay, so the final section of Alina's story brings us right back full circle to her hometown village.
Where it all began. She was invited to speak at her old school. The source describes it as this mix of gratitude and memory for her. Understandable.
Totally. She'd left that school with broken confidence and shaky English.
Yeah, now she's back, standing in the same auditorium where she once struggled.
Yeah. And she holds up Anne of Green Gables, her first English novel, remember?
The one she read slowly, honestly, and with love.
Exactly. She shared how reading taught her to feel the language, to taste it, to live inside it, not just decode it.
And she told her whole story, the struggles, the joy, the heartbreak starting over, and where she is now, teaching reading in English all over the world. Imagine saying that in your old school auditorium.
Must have been incredible. And there was this really poignant moment the source highlights when a young boy asked if English was only for people who want to leave their home.
Ooh, it's a deep question from a kid.
It really is. And Alina's answer is one of the deepest insights in the whole narrative, I think. She said, reading English didn't help me escape. It helped me stay.
Wow.
Stay true to who I am. Stay open to people from everywhere. Stay strong in my dreams.
It helped me stay. That completely flips the script, doesn't it? The usual idea of language as a way to leave your roots.
Totally. For her, it was about deepening connection, both inward and outward, not escaping.
Amazing. And later, she visited the village library.
And found her own book, The Listening Path, stamped by the school library.
And the feeling wasn't pride, the source notes. It was belonging.
Belonging. In the place she once felt disconnected from, it just solidified that idea that you never really leave your beginnings. You carry them with you. You return, not as the person who left, but as the one who grew. And the journey finds its perfect, quiet conclusion. A little girl runs up to her, notebook in hand,
and asks if Alina would read her own story in English.
Oh, chills.
Yeah. And Alina's answer, I'd be honored. It's the final note, isn't it? Showing the legacy she built.
Yeah.
Empowering others to find their voice, tell their own stories.
Just perfect. The source sums it up beautifully. When you read, you discover yourself. And when you share your story, you help others find theirs. It's a cycle.
Wow. What a deeply human journey that was. Alina's story really shows us, doesn't it, that learning English reading, starting small with something you enjoy, it's not just about building some technical skill.
Not at all.
It's this profoundly personal process that can unlock creativity, build genuine confidence, connect you with people all over the globe, and ultimately help you find and sort of amplify your own unique voice.
Yeah, it's such a powerful reminder that the quiet, often solitary act of reading can have this incredible echoing impact, not just on your own life path, but on the lives of people you might never even physically meet. It's quite something.
It really is. And if you're a learner listening to this, maybe you see a piece of your own journey in Alina's initial struggles, or in those quiet moments of discovery with just a single page.
Mm-hmm.
The story seems to suggest the secret weapon is simply beginning authentically. One page, one paragraph, one feeling.
So yeah, it makes you think, doesn't it? What story will you choose to open next? How might that simple act not only change your English, but maybe fundamentally change who you become.
Right.
Or even how you might help someone else find their own voice, their own story down the line.
That's a really powerful thought to carry with you. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Alina's journey. We hope it sparks something in your own reading path, wherever you are on it.